On June 24, 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold saw what he called 9 flying discs in the skies over Mount Rainier. Soon after, he was interrogated by government officials who tried to discredit his testimony. For many people, this marks not just the start of the modern era of UFO sightings, but also the start of government attempts to hide the incredible truth that aliens may have already visited our planet, met with world leaders, and sought to influence world affairs. Stay watching as we unravel the dark secrets behind some of the most famous UFO incidents, the dark projects that aliens may have aided, and the ways the world elite has worked to keep us in the dark.
I had been told I would be able to keep the being alive. How many were there originally?
So let's start on that summer day in 1947, as 32-year-old Kenneth Arnold flew over Washington in search of a missing aircraft. Suddenly, in his own words, he saw a chain of 9 aircraft flying north to south, dipping in and out around the mountain peaks. They seemed to be travelling far beyond the speed of sound, but had no tail surfaces that he could see. Puzzled, he reported his experience to the Air Force. In public, the response was simple. A senior commander at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base concluded, "The report cannot bear even superficial examination, therefore must be disregarded." But over the next few weeks, dozens more reports flooded in, with some of the objects even being photographed. One such was from local newspaper editor and veteran Air National Guard pilot David N. Johnson. He had been tasked with recreating Arnold's flight and encountered a group of very similar objects, which he even managed to film. But when the film returned from the developers, it was mysteriously blank. The first of many reports over the years of evidence being tampered with or destroyed. In private, the authorities were panicking. A joint Air Force and FBI report in July 1947 concluded that many of the reports were not imaginary and could not be explained by natural phenomena. In September, a further report by General Nathan Twining, head of Air Materiel Command, recommended a formal government investigation. Then things changed. A number of studies were carried out. Project Sign allegedly concluded the objects were of extraterrestrial origin, but was suppressed by General Hoyt Vandenberg, Air Force Chief of Staff. Project Grudge, led by General Twining himself, did report publicly, disparaging all UFO reports as the result of A. misidentifications of various conventional objects, B. a mild form of mass hysteria and war nerves, C. individuals who fabricate such reports to perpetuate a hoax or to seek publicity, D. psychopathological persons. It seemed like a whitewash was underway, and as we'll see in the next chapter, maybe there was a reason for that. In the middle of the frenzy created by Kenneth Arnold's sighting and those that followed, came perhaps the most famous UFO incident of all time. On June 26th, just 2 days after Arnold saw those 9 mysterious objects, Mac Brazel, a rancher in Roswell, New Mexico, found unusual debris spread across a square mile of his land. Within days, an official press release announced that the Air Force had recovered a flying disc. But within minutes of that, a local radio station that was about to report the discovery received a message. "This is the FBI. Cease all communication." The official explanation had changed. According to the authorities, the mysterious flying disc was actually an ordinary weather balloon. So what was going on? Colonel Jesse Marcel, the officer who'd recovered the debris from Brazel's ranch, was in no doubt that the material recovered wasn't of earthly origin. His son recalled pieces of wreckage with strange non-human markings. Those who'd seen the original wreckage claimed it wasn't the same as the pieces that were later shown to the public. Other witnesses, including Brazel, came forward with stories of being threatened into silence. Whispers grew of a secret hangar that stored not just unearthly wreckage, but bodies of aliens themselves. But it wasn't till 1987 that the bombshell dropped. TV producer Jamie Shandera revealed documents he claimed to have received from an unknown source. Now known as the Majestic 12 documents, they appeared to have been put together for President Eisenhower in 1952. According to this briefing, the object that crashed near Roswell was a short-range scout craft of alien origin. Both the craft and the bodies of its occupants were recovered and stored. The then-President, Harry S. Truman, set up a committee of 12 scientists, military personnel, and government officials to conceal the fact from the public, decide how best to utilize the alien technology recovered, and how to contact the aliens themselves. The committee was named Majestic 12. A further memo from Eisenhower's assistant Robert Cutler seemed to support both the existing of the committee and the cover-up. The committee members were even named. Among them were Generals Twining and Vandenberg, who had already publicly rubbished the notion of flying discs. The Majestic 12 Committee reputedly controlled the investigation of the crashed remains and experiments with the alien technology recovered at a remote airbase in Nevada called Groom Lake, officially known as Area 51. Over the following years, an increasing number of eyewitness reports began to emerge of strange sightings in the area, oddly shaped aircraft, flying like no aircraft should, and worse, mysterious disappearances of people who ventured too close. Retired physician Dr. Stephen Greer has devoted his life to uncovering the truth behind UFO phenomena. As part of the Disclosure Project, he has collated over 100 eyewitness sightings in the area. Even today, rumour swirls over what exactly lies deep within Area 51 and who controls it. But why would aliens suddenly descend on Earth in the 1940s? Could there be an alternative explanation? Stick with us as we uncover the facts that may have triggered an invasion, either from here on Earth or from the stars themselves, as well as evidence that some of the most famous MINs on Earth could have been involved. The timing of alien contact in the later 1940s is perhaps not as strange an idea as it may first seem. Powerful new technologies were emerging. Our radio and TV signals had begun beaming out into space, revealing our presence like a lighthouse. The first experiments with spaceflight were underway. Above all, for the first time, man had the ability to destroy his world. The prospect of a war that might destroy or kill us all was terrifyingly close. Could it be that those developments had brought us to the attention of other civilizations who'd come to observe our planet, maybe even to warn us? Of course, it's possible there's another explanation for the secrecy. Russia had switched from being an ally to America's biggest threat. At least one source claims it could have been an advanced Russian vehicle that crashed in New Mexico. Reason enough for a government cover-up and military paranoia. But the rumors of alien involvement wouldn't die, and incredibly, one of the most brilliant scientists ever to have lived is also alleged to have been part of the cover-up. In 1993, sensational claims emerged that Albert Einstein, father of relativity and collaborator in the development of the first atomic weapons, had been secretly flown to New Mexico following the Roswell incident. His former assistant, Dr. Shirley Wright, gave testimony that she accompanied him as he examined not just the craft itself, but the bodies of its occupants. According to Dr. Wright, there were 9 aliens. They were about 5 feet tall, without hair, with big heads and enormous dark eyes, and their skin was grey with a slight greenish tinge, but for the most part, their bodies were not exposed, being dressed in tight-fitting suits. Most incredibly of all, Dr. Wright claims one of them was still alive. Lacking the correct security clearance, she was not allowed near the being, leaving Einstein alone to examine and perhaps communicate with it. Afterwards, she said Einstein told her he was not surprised that aliens had come to Earth. Contact should be a benefit for both our worlds. There is no solid evidence to support Dr. Wright's claims. Perhaps, as someone who'd contributed so much to our understanding of nuclear physics, Dr. Einstein was in New Mexico purely to observe a weapons test. But, as we'll see shortly, if Einstein did meet with an alien survivor, another thread in the tangled web of claim and counterclaim may shed light on what Einstein and the alien actually spoke about, and also reveal that the conspiracy to cover up alien contact really did go to the very top of US government. In February 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower was on a golf vacation in Palm Springs, California. On the evening of the 20th, he unexpectedly left the ranch he was staying at, not returning till hours later. Officially, he chipped a tooth at dinner and went for emergency dental work. Unofficially, there have been many claims that Eisenhower actually traveled to Edwards Air Force Base for a meeting with representatives of an alien species, a meeting arranged by the FBI, who were already in telepathic contact with alien races. The alien beings, nicknamed Nordics on account of their pale blue eyes and white hair, offered to share their technology with the US government if Ike, in turn, would surrender America's nuclear weapons. They explained that space-time itself could be damaged should an all-out nuclear war be launched. Perhaps this was the reason that Albert Einstein, the man who'd pioneered the concept of space-time, had been summoned to talk to them in New Mexico. But sources claim Eisenhower refused the offer and returned to his vacation. The Roswell incident and the flying saucer craze soon faded from public memory, but beneath the surface, it seemed the alien presence remained, as did the efforts to keep the secret. Barely a year after Roswell, Captain Thomas Mantell of the Kentucky Air National Guard was scrambled to intercept an unusual object that had been spotted by highway patrol officers hanging seemingly motionless in the skies over Fort Knox. Air traffic controllers on duty that day claim he reported a metallic object of enormous size before losing contact. Soon after, his plane crashed back to Earth near Franklin, Kentucky. Once again, the official machinery moved quickly. The object so many witnesses had seen, they said, was just a skyhook surveillance balloon. He had passed out at high altitude through lack of oxygen, and his body was recovered from the wreckage. Some said, though, that his body was missing. Perhaps that he'd actually been taken by the aliens. Of course, people have mysteriously disappeared throughout history, but remarkably, some researchers claim that in the decades after Roswell, the US government gave alien entities permission to kidnap men, women, and children for study and experimentation. And once again, President Eisenhower is at the heart of the story. Amazingly, after the meeting with the Nordic beings, eyewitness accounts suggest Eisenhower met with aliens on at least 2 more occasions. At least one of these meets was said to be with a different race, the Greys, perhaps the same beings that Einstein is alleged to have spoken with. It was the Greys who are said to have asked for and received permission from Eisenhower to take both cattle and humans for study, on condition that the subjects were returned unharmed. Perhaps this could explain the many famous abduction cases of the 50s and 60s, and also the presence of the mysterious men in black, nameless government officials who sought to silence abductees who spoke of their experiences. Judging by the many reports that also emerged, though, of the mutilated corpses of both people and cattle being found, the Greys didn't stick to their side of the bargain to return subjects safely. But could it really be true? Did Albert Einstein and the President of the United States conspire with the military and other agencies to cover up alien presence on our planet? Naturally, there is no concrete evidence, and, as we've seen, there are alternative explanations. But Shirley Wright gave a specific date for the encounter in New Mexico, and the Albert Einstein Foundation has no record of the scientist's whereabouts on that day. Similarly, despite official denials, there is no record of the dental procedure President Eisenhower is said to have had on the day many say he first met visitors from another world. Later, presidents were equally evasive on alien affairs. Jimmy Carter did admit to seeing a UFO, but claimed he didn't think it was an alien craft. Bill Clinton sent his national security advisor, Sandy Berger, to Area 51 to see if they were holding alien tech or remains, though he wouldn't say what Berger saw. Was it all part of the cover-up, or did they genuinely not know? There are theories why later presidents might have been kept in the dark. It has been claimed that the Majestic 12 committee went rogue, severing ties with the government, claiming the recovered alien technology to use for its own purposes, and heading underground. More sensationally still, there are suggestions that the CIA clashed with John F. Kennedy over the use of such tech, eventually arranging his assassination in Dallas to maintain the conspiracy of silence, and making sure that future presidents didn't know the truth. Certainly, it seemed a pattern had been set: deny the evidence, suggest alternative explanations, and silence those who spoke out. Stick with us as we discover how other governments around the world seem to have followed the same pattern, and how more recent incidents mean the veil of secrecy over UFOs may finally be lifting. In the wake of Kenneth Arnold's sightings, reports of UFOs appeared in nearly every country of the world. A number of governments released official reports into UFO phenomena. Canada's UFO BC program, the French UFO study group, GAPAN. In Britain, the Ministry of Defence unit named D155, which debunked thousands of sighting claims. And perhaps most famously, Project Blue Book, the US Air Force's successor to Project Grudge, which had rubbished the flying saucer sightings of 1947 and 1948. Since many of the same officers were involved, it's no surprise that Blue Book too dismissed the vast majority of sightings. Some of the strangely shaped objects that had been spotted in the skies over Area 51 have also been explained to the public in the shape of advanced fighters and bombers, such as the SR-71 spy plane, F-117 Nighthawk, and B-2 Spirit. Whether those aircraft account for all the sightings and where exactly the technology to build them came from remain closely guarded secrets. But in recent years, there are signs that authorities worldwide are beginning to change their approach and open up the files of UFO activity. In 2010, the Chilean government's Committee for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena, CEFAA, released a number of videos caught on camera by military personnel, including this one. Soon after, the Pentagon released footage of similar-looking objects, also caught by military pilots, and admitted it had no explanation for them. With such detailed footage from verifiable sources, dismissing the sightings became harder, and suddenly, the official line began to crumble. Sensational new rumours began to emerge from highly placed sources within government. Aliens are among us, they claimed. The US not only has alien tech and bodies, but covert programs are actively working to reverse engineer alien tech to create new weapons. Then, in June 2023, came the most sensational development of all. I've covered those allegations in a whole new video. But what do you think? Are aliens really here already? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to link and subscribe. Thanks for watching.